Zebulon Baird Vance was a Confederate military officer in the American Civil War, the 37th and 43rd Governor of North Carolina, and U.S. Senator. A prodigious writer, Vance became one of the most influential Southern leaders of the Civil War and postbellum periods. Childhood. Zebulon Vance was born in Buncombe County, North Carolina, near present-day Weaverville, the third of 8 children. His family owned 18 slaves. His uncle was Congressman Robert Brank Vance, for whom his elder brother, Robert B. Vance, was named. At age 12 he was sent to study at Washington College in Tennessee, now known as Washington College Academy. The death of his father forced Vance to withdraw and return home at the age of 14. It was during this time that he began to court the well-bred Miss Harriet-A by letter. To improve his standing, Vance determined to go to law school. At the age of 21, he wrote to the president of the University of North Carolina, where he was a member of the Dialectic and Philanthropic Societies, former Governor David L. Swain, and asked for a loan so that he could attend law school. Governor Swain arranged for a $300 loan from the university, and Vance performed admirably. By 1852, Vance had begun practicing law in Asheville, and was soon elected county solicitor. By 1853, he married Harriet-A at Quaker Meadows, and they would subsequently have 5 sons, 4 of whom survived to adulthood. Civil War. By the time the Ordinance of Secession had passed in May 1861, Vance was a captain stationed in Raleigh, commanding a company known as the Rough and Ready Guards, part of the 14th North Carolina Regiment. That August, Vance was elected colonel of the 26th North Carolina. The 26th engaged in battle in New Bern in March 1862, where Vance conducted an orderly retreat. Vance also led the 26th at Richmond. The 26th was ultimately destroyed at the Battle of Gettysburg, losing more than 700 of its original 800 members, though Vance at the time was no longer in military service. In September 1862, Vance won the gubernatorial election. In the Confederacy, Vance was a major proponent of individual rights and local self-government, often putting him at odds with the Confederate government of Jefferson Davis. For example, North Carolina was the only state to observe the right of habeas corpus and keep its courts fully functional during the war. Also, Vance refused to allow supplies smuggled into North Carolina by blockade runners to be given to other states until North Carolinians had their share. Vance's work for the aid and morale of the people, especially in mitigating the harsh Confederate conscription practices, inspired the nickname War Governor of the South. Vance was re-elected in 1864. On May 29, 1865, William Woods Holden was appointed governor by President Andrew Johnson. Post-war career. Governor Vance was arrested by federal forces on his birthday in May 1865 and spent time in prison in Washington, D.C. For President Andrew Johnson's amnesty program, he filed an application for pardon on June 3, and was paroled on July 6. After his parole, he began practicing law in Charlotte, North Carolina. Among his clients was accused murderer Tom Dooley, the subject of the folk song Tom Dooley. Governor Vance was formally pardoned on March 11, 1867, though no formal charges had ever been filed against him leading to his arrest, during his imprisonment, nor during the period of his parole. In 1870, the state legislature elected him to the United States Senate, but due to the restrictions placed on ex-Confederates by the 14th Amendment of the Constitution, he was not allowed to serve. In 1876, Vance was elected governor once again, and in 1879 the legislature again elected him to the United States Senate. This time he was seated, and he served in the Senate until his death in 1894. After a funeral in the U.S. Capitol, Vance was buried in the Riverside Cemetery in Nashville. Starting in about 1870, Vance gave a speech hundreds of times he called the Scattered Nation, which praised the Jews and called for religious tolerance and freedom amongst all Americans. In 1880, Vance married Florence Steele Martin of Kentucky. Quotes about Vance: "He was the Mount Mitchell of all our great men, and in the affections and love of the people, he towered above them all. As ages to come will not be able to mar the grandeur and greatness of Mount Mitchell, so they will not be able to efface from the hearts and minds of the people the name of the beloved Vance T. There never lived such a stump speaker as war governor. Vance endeared himself forever to his people. He mitigated the horrors of war by insisting on the precedence of civil law, and stoutly protected the state from the uncomfortable militarism of the Confederate government." Selig Adler, historian by Vance. "The purpose of war is to explore each other, unconfirmed, a veil of humility between two mountains of conceit," supposedly said by Vance about North Carolina. The two mountains of conceit are Virginia and South Carolina. This is also attributed to Alexander Hamilton, but probably predates both Hamilton and Vance. Legacy. There are several monuments dedicated to Vance, an obelisk similar to the Washington Monument in Washington, D.C., is dedicated to Vance in Pack Square, Asheville. Historic Museum on West Sharp Street in Statesville, North Carolina, a temporary capital of Confederacy after Sherman captured Raleigh. A statue on the south grounds of the North Carolina State Capitol in Raleigh. A bronze in the National Statuary Hall collection in Washington, D.C. A small monument located where his post-war home once stood, at 6th and College Streets in Charlotte. One of the administrative buildings at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill is named Vance Hall in his honor. A portrait of Vance hangs in the dialectic chamber of the Dialectic and Philanthropic Societies of the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. His birthplace is a state historic site in Weaverville. Several locations and schools in North Carolina bear Vance's name. The town of Zebulon in Wake County. The town of Vanceboro in Craven County, Vance County, North Carolina. Zebulon B. Vance High School in Charlotte. Zeb Vance Elementary School in Kittrell. Vance Masonic Lodge A, F, and Amp A, M, number 293 in Weaverville. Vance Gap Road in Asheville. In World War II, the United States Liberty ship SS Zebulon B. Vance was named in his honor.